So a few tips for banking messages. First of all, we strongly encourage you to record in the moment, to have this small portable recorder with you and just pull it out when the moment seems right, record a message, put it away. The reason for that is to make sure that messages that you believe are really important and things that you experience throughout the day get captured. When recording, you want to try to speak naturally. Just because you're recording doesn't mean that you need to sound like you're reading. You really want to capture the authentic moment. If you think you didn't record something well, do it again. Do it a half dozen times if you would like, because in the end, you get to decide what you keep and what you don't keep. Far better to record something multiple times than to do it once and be not sure that it's good quality. Similarly, consider recording messages with different intonations so they kind of fit different situations. Not long ago, I had a gentleman who recorded a very tender, "I love you." And then he followed that up by recording a rather sarcastic sounding, "I love you." And he really wanted to make sure he had both of those available to kind of fit his mood, his humor, and kind of the authentic situation. Make sure when you record messages, you record each message separately. So that means you press, speak, and press, as opposed to recording a whole bunch of messages on one recording. The reason for that is if you press and then record multiple messages and then press to stop the recording, all of those recordings that are actually part of just one recording have to now be edited and spliced up so that you can have each of them individually. So it's far better to just press, record a message, press to end the message. This button, by the way, it doesn't require a lot of pressure. And because the microphone is so sensitive, if you press really hard, you actually record the clicking sound of pressing. So feel free just to gently press, speak, press. By the way, you don't even have to hold down the button as you're recording. Once you press, it activates the recording, and it's just waiting for you to then press again to end. While ideally the environment that you're recording in is pretty quiet, so there's not a lot of competing noise, it's far better to record under any circumstance so you capture it. Worst case scenario is if there's a recording that has a lot of background noise, when we go and listen to it, we're going to be able to flag that as a good message that needs to be re-recorded in a quiet environment. We found that it's far better to do that than to think you're going to make a mental note to record it later in a quiet environment. Most people tend to forget. Well, we encourage people to carry this recorder around with them and record at will as a message occurs to you. We absolutely recognize that for some people it's far better to keep a list and sit in a quiet space and record those messages. Many people have said that that has worked better for them. They've kind of kept mental notes or created a list throughout the day, but then they've actually sat and recorded them at a different time. The only thing that we would caution you on with that is to make sure when you're recording those messages, you're not recording them like you're reading a list. Try to use authentic intonation. Try to really speak the message the way you would typically speak it. A lot of people ask for advice about what to record. As you've probably seen on our website, there's a 60-plus page handout that is a list of many, many messages people with ALS have banked. We've then gone and taken those messages and put them into categories where we think they fit. That list is not meant to be a script. So please don't take that and decide you've got to record all those messages. Instead, it might serve as a nice visual reminder of the diversity of messages. Many people will look at it and see categories and realize, oh, I hadn't thought about recording messages that are sarcasm. Oh, I hadn't thought about recording myself laughing. And so it spurs ideas, but it's really not meant to be something where you think you should go through and record all those messages. Some messages that people have banked that have been really, really valuable have been things like laughter. Many people have recorded themselves laughing and have recorded different types of laughter. You know, a heavy belly laugh to that evil, sarcastic laugh. People have recorded lots of starter phrases, imagining that if you wanted to grab someone's attention in the future, but you've got no idea now what the actual message might be, banking a message like, would you do me a favor? Knowing that if you ever needed to use that, you could use text-to-speech and combine synthetic speech for that message that we can't even determine yet what it would be, in combination with your banked message saying, would you do me a favor? You know, there are so many things that we do vocally that are meaningful, especially meaningful to the people around us. Some examples of things that people have banked have been clearing their throat, because you know that there's a lot of meaning behind that depending upon the way you use it. People have banked messages where they have done something like, uh-huh, and then have banked, uh-huh, because that could be very meaningful to the people around you and certainly better represent the message you're really trying to get across. A lot of people have banked the same words, the same phrases, with different intonation. Worked with a gentleman not long ago who has a young child named Michael. And he recorded his child's name simply Michael. He then recorded Michael. He then recorded again Michael. He explained to me, I want to make sure I have my son's name recorded in a manner that matches the context and matches really the intent that I'm trying to communicate to my young son. A lot of people have banked messages where they have been singing. Happy birthday is a big one. Thinking about those kinds of situations in your life, singing songs, quoting lines from a movie or a line of poetry. If that's something that you typically do, you want to make sure you capture that. A lot of people have asked about recording stories or recording lengthy messages to people. By all means, do that. It's important to recognize, though, as you're message banking, that there are kind of different types of messages. There are messages that you are going to potentially use in conversation, in quick interaction with people, and then other messages that are almost planned statements where you kind of take the floor and deliver a speech, or maybe recite poetry, or tell a story reflecting on an experience. Those are likely going to be used very differently if one is ever using technology in the future, but they are equally as important. What's most important is that if you are message banking, you're banking messages that are important to you, that are a reflection of you, that are your isms, if you will. Many people have told us that family members, dear friends, people who are around them all the time have been invaluable at coaching them in message banking. Why is that? Well, often we're not so aware of the kinds of things that we say all the time for which we've become known, yet the people around us are. So we've had lots of experience even sitting here in a clinic where a family member will say, "Oh, Dad, record that message. You say that all the time." So we would encourage you to ask the people around you to provide suggestions and coach you, and even throughout the day, remind you of things that you are saying that ought to be captured, ought to be message banked.